It is training session number 5 with Dotti, and I feel like I have actually made some progress with her straightness today. I've had the best ride with her that I've had all week. So in a couple of days between our rides due to the wet weather, but the break certainly hasn't hurt her. In fact, she's possibly come back a little bit more refreshed. So her leg yields are fairly straight, but she's always good with her leg yields. My problem all week has been the straightness issue. So cantering to the right, falling onto the right shoulder, otherwise just pushing out of that right shoulder and going to the left. And then obviously wanting to get her, was a little fly there, that's not her misbehaving, her to start to cover more ground with her trot and can to work and develop that moment of suspension. So how Dotti currently travels, she likes just to hold in that upper half of her neck and not come up through her back, and she doesn't really relax her jaw, which is why I've changed the bit to the KK training bit, so it's a double joint with the rounded lozenge in the middle, not the flat lozenge like with the French snaffle. I feel like she's staying straighter in the leg yields today, and she's got in general more swing through the body and more ground cover in the trot. She feels a lot more even on both sides, and we're starting to develop some lengthened trot. And some transitions within the pace. So what Dotti was doing with her owner when she asked for a more collected trot was just coming back to walk, essentially dropping her back and top line muscles and just walking rather than coming back to a more collected trot. So that's something that we've concentrated on a lot this week, is bringing her back and maintaining the pace rather than making a swift transition from trot to walk. So doing these transitions within the pace helps to develop the carrying power of the hindquarters, separates the hind legs, and develops the ground cover for the lengthened paces, which, once the horse develops a more collected trot, become the medium and extended paces. So if Dotti's just holding at the top half of her neck and she's not lifting the thoracic sling, lifting the back end, utilising the lumbar, and she actually becomes quite heavy in your hands. So I've worked hard on developing that lateral bend and that lifting and of the back, which then develops a softening into the hands. And then because she is straighter, she's much easier to ride the lateral movements such as your travers and your shoulder in. Well, I feel like I've got an actual shoulder in today and a travers. She's struggling a little bit to hold that line, but I have got more bend than I had at the beginning of the week's training session. And then asking for a more collected trot to develop that sitting and carrying power without her it feels essentially like she sinks away from under you and makes a transition back to the lower pace. So she does it in the canter as well. She'll just sink away from under you in the canter and go back to trot, rather than staying in the pace that you put her in. So a lot of this work can be done on the long reins in the cooler lunge to then carry through to under saddle. So it can develop that connection and that carrying without a rider on her back. And then this is the follow through of where you take this work to with the rider on her back. But I find it's always easier to develop the roundness, the connection, the rhythm, even the lateral flexion and the straightness on the long reins in the cooler lunge, and then add the weight of a rider. Because when she's holding the top half of her neck and not carrying through her back, she's quite uncomfortable to ride. And if she's not straight, she hurts my back. So I have had a couple of sore backs this week. And then carrying on to the canter, I'm very excited that we got the right canter lead on the very first go. This is the first time that's happened all week. She'll always pick up the left canter lead, so she'll then pick up the left canter lead when we're going right as well. So while the canter did start off a little bit proppy and holding, it did get easier as the session went on. So this isn't a video of our entire training session, it's a video of when I got my mum down to the arena to video. And so I did have a couple of misses with the right canter, which I have to be honest, I've edited out because it's just tiresome. You've already seen it. It's the same stuff a different day. So what I did is put her on a smaller circle to the left to then get the right canter lead, because once I started doing the simple changes across in the figure of 8, that's when she started to charge through that right shoulder again, throw the hindquarters to the left, and just push through and either pick up the left canter or just run on in the trot rather than making a counter transition. Now I like using the simple change to help to develop the counter transition because it gets them to start being quicker with their hind legs. But that will only work if the horse stays straight. And so after the first simple, then Dotti fell back into her old ways of wanting to push through that inside shoulder and charge off. And so that's me there. I was starting to play around with moving the hindquarters to the new inside side before I asked for the downward transition. So while that looked a little bit messy, that was mine doing and would be the start of looking at your flying changes. And there as well, I've stirred her up a little bit by moving the hindquarters around. And so with this transition, I've actually flexed her to the outside to get the right canter. So I've gone flex left, flex left, flex left, flex right, and canter. And I found that has worked quite effectively. It gave me more control of the inside shoulder, because when she charges off on that inside shoulder, she throws all her weight to the right. So by flexing her left, I managed to have the inside shoulder as almost like being into the outside rein for a moment, my inside rein being my outside rein for a moment. Then I flex it in and ask, and that worked. And so you'll just see it here once more. It's a flex left, flex left, flex left. And she's like, shit, got it. And that's it, we're done. I was extremely happy with that. We might have nearly sort of had a little bit of a fallout and nearly run into the fence along here somewhere. But I just wanted to reward her with a little bit of light-seated canter, even though she is overbending to the inside a couple of times. She's maintaining that canter. Oh, here's where we nearly ran into the fence, whoopsie, and make the transition back. So that's our week's worth of training sessions. Thank you for watching.